morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Hi, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas, and today we're going to talk about all kinds of weird and wonderful things on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers.
Indeed.
Welcome to episode 99.
99. Wasn't she a spy and Get Smart?
Yes, Diana Rigg. Oh my God.
No.
I'm
Barbara
not going to
Eden.
get it.
No.
Oh, it's Barbara Eden. Was it Barbara Eden?
No,
No, Diana Rigg.
No. Is that her name?
Diana Rigg.
She was a very
All right.
attractive young lady.
All right.
I remember.
Okay, so now I don't want to get too much into the stand, but Barbara Eden was the genie in I Dream of Jeannie.
Barbara Feldon, who was 99. Who was 99?
Oh, wait, Barbara Feldon. You're right. It's Barbara Feldon. She was 99. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who was? Oh, Diana.
Max,
you know who Diana Rigg was with? The Avengers.
I don't.
The Avengers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't watch that one.
Oh, that was a good one.
And who was Get Smart?
Get Smart was Barbara Eden. No.
Who was the guy?
Barbara Feldon.
Who was the guy?
Oh, that's Don Adams.
Righto.
Right. Okay. So, welcome to 99. This is our last double-digit episode, which means that next week we have Bobby Hale in episode 100, right?
Bobby Hale of High End Systems.
An ETC company.
Right. Bobby Hale. So, that's episode 100. Now we're dealing with triple digits, and I don't know if we can handle this.
Best looking lighting salesman in America.
He's a good-looking guy, and we have a
He
secret.
is.
We have a secret about Bobby, actually, that we're going to.
No, we don't. We don't have any secrets about Bobby Hale. He's not that good. Yeah.
He's a good-looking guy.
I don't know why you keep introducing him as a real good-looking guy.
He's a good-looking guy. Well,
What's good-looking is my high-end systems lava lamp
Yes.
that is percolating on my desk right now.
Now
even as
you
we
got
speak.
yours faster than I did. Mine's on its way. It'll be here on something like the 19th or something.
I'm in Dallas. They're in Austin. So,
That's right.
we have airplanes
Yeah.
here. You probably got like a gator cart going toward Florida.
To get here, he has to take a boat. No, but what color is it? I want to know.
Mine is a kind of a blue and green color.
Ooh, mine's red.
Yours is red, David?
Mine's lava red. Yeah.
Well, I'll report back to you on what I get. Maybe mine will be purple and yellow.
And it's big. It's like the size of a Labrador Retriever. It's huge.
Really?
They are big.
Yes.
Yes. This is not like a tacky lava lamp, little one. They went all out. They spent some
No
bucks.
kidding.
No
How
cheap
how
lava
tall is
lamps
it?
from high end. I don't know, about 4 feet.
No, it's not 4 feet. It's about, I don't know, it's about a foot and a half, maybe. It's about 18
Wow,
inches.
that's a serious.
Yeah.
That's a serious.
You can
lava lamp.
hang
Wow.
37 of them on a pipe. So anyway, so Bobby Hale's next week, and then in 3 weeks is episode 102. And do you know what 102 is?
It's a fever.
It's a bad fever. It's our anniversary show. We think it's 102, or should it be 104? I keep forgetting.
104.
104. So that's actually in 5 weeks.
And if we're even remotely on track, we should have 100,000 downloads by then too.
We're close now, aren't we, David?
We're getting there. We're close. We're about 80 some odd thousand.
And the Facebook group is like hitting 1,500 people, I think, or something.
It's over
like that.
1,500. We got over 1,500 last week, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of very interesting people on there.
Around the world. Yeah, really amazing.
Finally, I wanted to talk quickly about Bohemian Rhapsody. I got my 4K super high definition version of it. And on it, and I'm sure this is the case for most versions on the DVD or Blu-ray, there is a fantastic short documentary about how they created the stage for Live Aid. And it's very interesting. There's a short interview with Tony Simpson, who was the concert lighting director. And he was talking about how they replicated the light plot. Now, obviously, they changed some things. And I just posted something on the page about the moving lights they used. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. They were trying to find like 200 chrome par cans. Apparently, there aren't that many still around. So, hey, let's start with a question from our first listener.
I have a question from Dieter in Germany. And he writes, and I think he's kind of bitter, but we'll see. Now that Golden Sea is both manufacturing movers for other companies to sell and now sells its own brand, Ayrton. Who is the next company to go under in the world market?
Ooh, crystal ball.
So, Dieter, you flatter me. I have no idea who's going to succeed and who's going to fail on the world market. That would just be hubris on my part to even speculate on that. However, you do bring up a good point about Golden Sea and their product line, Ayrton, which is a really great light. There's no doubt about it. We've seen it for a couple years now. They've got a new light out, so it's not about quality. I mean, it's good light. I think what we're talking about is, can Golden Sea find that delicate balance to be both a supplier and a competitor to the people they're supplying? That's the big sticky wicket. Golden Sea makes a number of fixtures for a variety of company, and it now sells its own product line. So I think that's really tricky. I think it's really tricky. I think the other thing we're going to see coming pretty soon is probably a shift in manufacturing. Some of our listeners are old enough to remember the big manufacturing company that was doing electronics for the United States was Japan. And then all of a sudden that shifted to Taiwan. And now it's shifted to mainland China. And I think the next hot spot is probably going to be Vietnam. Haiphong, the port city, that is the industrial center now of Vietnam, the way Guangzhou is in southern China. It's a modern port. I think it's going to give Guangzhou a run for its money. Utilities and labor costs are about half of what it is in mainland China. The quality control isn't quite where it is in Guangzhou, but I'm sure Golden Sea's got an eye on that, what's going to happen in the world market. I can tell you who's not going to go under. I'm pretty confident about this. When we take a look at China and the Chinese manufactured lights, I think the people who are not going to go under, which is now probably, I'm now cursing them, is Clay Paky. Clay Paky is engineered and made in Italy. I think Roby is not going to go under. Another great light made in the Czech Republic. Verilight now virtually builds everything in Dallas. And with that merger of High-End and ETC, or the acquisition, I guess, of ETC, I vaguely remember at Workshop last year, Fred announced that all manufacturing would be made in the United States of America. So I'm pretty sure those big four companies right there are not going to be tied to China much longer. I mean, they're kind of, I guess, having to get electronic parts and components. But I think there's going to be a world of change now, particularly with the trade war, with the 10% tariff that's kicking to 25%. I think China's in trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be an interesting next couple of years. What do you think, Stan?
Well, it sounds like Steve really has his head around this in a pretty detailed way. It just makes me think about appliances. I mean, are lights going to become like appliances? And when I was shopping for appliances, I learned something interesting. There's only 2 manufacturers on the entire planet that build the parts for appliances. And those 2 companies are Electrolux and Bosch. So no matter what you buy, what the badge is, Maytag, Whirlpool, Sub-Zero, you name it, you either got Electrolux or Bosch inside. Now, that's not to say you can't go out and buy a Bosch product. You can. And you can go out and buy an Electrolux product. So it's sort of like what Steve is saying in a way, so this company is making a lot of people's lights, and they're also hawking their own product. I guess it worked in appliances. I have no idea how it will play out in the moving light world.
We're a much smaller industry.
Sure.
And we're kind of hitting saturation right now. So I don't think everyone's going to survive. And I think the challenge here is to get a light that is affordable. Certainly, tip of the hat to ETC, they're trying to make that releve affordable for a lot of people. Yeah. And maybe they've seen the future that no one else has yet.
I have a follow-up question for Steve, or either of you. Given that this let's call it the commoditization, or Steve is right. We're a very small industry. Are we going to start to see the end of the conventional fixture? And every rig is going to, because as the costs do come down because of this consolidation in the industry.
We asked this question back in episode 22, I believe.
It's been a while since then.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And we said yes. I don't see the conventional fixture lasting much longer. Eventually, everything's going to be moving. Definitely, everything's going to be LED and color changing. That's just a matter of time.
I agree. I'm in that risky business now. One of the theaters that David knows is our Greer Garson Theater, which is a kind of a reminiscent, I guess, of the Guthrie stage, maybe half size of that. We've just gutted that room and turned it into a large industrial space.
That's smart.
It was with the blessings of the Greer Garson Foundation.
Wonderful.
Because they did not want theater to be a static thing, and they realized that trends changed. But I'm taking that whole space in the next 3 years. That will be a moving light space. There will be no conventionals in it.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. Hopefully you get rid of that grid system up there.
Well, I mean, you can do it with a third the number of lights. You have much more time up front to work with the director and the cast. We now engage vision on everything we're doing. So, I mean, let's either go bravely into the future, or let's be the ones standing around talking about how wonderful the 6-inch Fresnel was, or the Olivet. Or gee, I miss Limelight.
Don't knock the Olivet. Okay. So Sarah in Las Vegas asks, can you talk about your pre-theater queuing process? You have mentioned working in the space with the director, but not everyone has that freedom. I work with small companies that can give me a couple of days for tech. I just want to be better prepared going in. I have basically 2 points. As far as my process in the beginning, whether it's a short load-in, a short production time, or long, I always discuss the major atmospheres and transitions with the director and the stage designer. We're going to talk about this later. And the rest of the team from the beginning. Because there's a certain artistic process and style that you're going for. And also, depending on the show, the transitions are just as important as any atmospheres that you design. So we go in with a concept idea of how we're handling the atmospheres and transitions. So we know already what we're going to do as far as that. And then go to rehearsals. Go to a lot of rehearsals. The more rehearsals you go to, the better prepared you're going to be, because the rehearsals are going to show you basically what the cues need to be, where they need to be, where the focus needs to be, and also where the emotion needs to be. So if you do both of those things, you're going to be fine.
Well, I think it gets back to that discussion. Is it more important to know the equipment or to know the music? So the rehearsal is everything. You can sit there and take notes. You can turn to the director and say, what do you think of this? I think there's going to be some blue backlight coming in through the door and these silhouetted against it. What we're really talking about is an honest, open conversation with the director. And you can't do that in a couple days of tech, because it doesn't matter how, good the theater company is or how bad the theater company is. 2 days of tech, and then we're in previews, or probably what you mean, opening. It's like all hands on deck. We got 6 hours to get it done, and let's just slam our way through it. So you can work that way, but if you go into pre-production so that you kind of have some major decisions made before you get into that 2 days of tech, the world's going to change for you, and you can be a more creative artist. I mean, we could go the other way. We could ignore everything David is saying, and you could go into these theaters and start hanging systems. And you got a blue system and a yellow system and a red system and a gobo system.
Boring.
The problem with that is that you're not going to grow as an artist. You're going to be just a mechanic. And I don't think that's what your question is about. You say, I just want to be better prepared. David is giving you advice you can take to the bank.
Can't disagree with any of that. Got to know the show. And the only thing I would add is that everybody knows I'm a big fan of previs, and that may or may not be possible for you to get your director to spend some time with you in that world. We're going to give. I was just invited to give a panel with a couple of other people. This coming up at USITT in Kentucky in Louisville. So maybe you want to. We're going to talk about how that can be a powerful tool to maybe help or another tool to have you and the director have that honest conversation in front of a screen, right, or in front of a projector before you get into theater.
Yeah, and speaking of previs, also you can use research, visual research, photographs, storyboards, whatever. All that will communicate to the director before you get into the theater. So anything that you can have visual, have visual representation. Also music, as Steve said. There's sometimes you can describe a transition better by playing a piece of music, by saying this is what it's going to feel like. This is the pace of the transition. This is how it's going to layer. This is how it's going to morph into this new world, into this new moment. I've used that as well when you're working with musical directors, obviously, people with good senses of music.
If you're still a student, then kind of the world is your oyster. If you're not a student, call up Vectorworks. You're probably already using Vectorworks software right now. If you're a student, you can get a 4-universe copy of Vision for free. If you're not a student, it sounds like when you say small theaters, but I don't know, you could have 70 universes running in a small theater. But I think if you're in a small theater, then a 4-universe Vision is going to work fine for you, and that's $500 or $600. It's the same investment that you're making in a crescent wrench, in Lightright, in Vectorworks, a camera to photograph your work for your portfolio. It's just the cost of doing business. And I think, again, life will change for you.
Well, I have a question from John in Wisconsin. He asked the question. It's making me chuckle. Am I a technician or a techie? Is there a difference? So, David, could you play that little piece of that clip from Aretha Franklin? RESPCT. Tell you what it means to me.
You sing like me.
I'm not really trying to sing, but
you were successful.
So I'm just saying, give it, get it, respect, don't mess with it. And I would also say, it depends too. Is it being said to you with affection and respect? Are you being called a techie because people really respect what you do and are in awe of what you do and care about what you do, or are they sort of talking down to you and calling you like just a techie?
Is it a term of endearment? Or is it a put down? We heard it both ways.
It's not the word. It's the feeling and the intention behind the word. I prefer I prefer to be spoken to with respect, and I prefer to speak to others with respect. And I think that's just good for civilization. So to me, there is a difference. If you ask me, if you're a technician and you're proud of that, I think calling you a stage technician, that's a very honorable profession. It takes great skill. It's unique in our world, and I think it's okay to ask for that. But at the same time, if it's your buddy across the street who's saying, I don't know how you feel about it, I just think respect is worthy to be given in both directions.
I've heard a lot of different opinions about this, and I've never called anyone a techie, ever.
I have never. Ever, I don't either.
Ever. But that's not saying it's wrong. That's just an opinion. I think that's exactly what you're saying, Stan. And then again, is there a difference between a technician and a designer?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And there are also technicians who are designers and designers who are technicians.
Absolutely.
I am not a technician.
I am. I would count myself as a designer who's also a technician.
I know a lot about
both.
the technology, obviously, but we couldn't do our work without technicians.
Now, wait, David, didn't you install those lights in your house the last couple of weeks?
Have you seen the wiring?
No, that's what I'm asking. But you got them to work, right? So you have some technical chops there.
Well, again, like I said, you have not seen the wiring. So the next time you're at my house, you may want to sit next to an exit.
Well, I like both. I enjoy both. I could be a technician 1 minute and then switch gears and be a designer the next. And I came to theater and lighting first as an electrician, first as a technician. I came up that way and then developed artistic skills afterwards. And so I like to think of myself as both.
Steve?
I think I'm disagreeing with everybody.
Good.
Always.
I think techie is an amateur. I think it's a beginner. I think it is a term of endearment in high school, but I think as you move into the profession, technician, I would never walk into a professional house and ask for the techie who does the ropes or something. I think it's also work. Is it the sound chick, or is it the sound designer? Is it the lighting guy, or the designer? So
I hate the lighting guy.
I think at some point you have to say I'm a technician. I'm not a techie. I was when I was 15. But I'm not anymore. I'm a professional technician.
It's like calling the surgeon the cutter or the dentist the puller.
Ooh,
it's like,
let's not talk about dentists, please. No, I mean, I have never, in the profession, I've never heard the word techie in the profession.
Me either.
I've always heard it at school.
Let me clarify what an amateur is. An amateur, in my mind, is someone like a hobbyist who has a real love for what they're doing. They're just not doing it for money.
Yeah. That
doesn't mean they're bad. So I look upon a techie as a hobbyist and as a technician who is that 9-to-5 guy or gal that's their livelihood, and they bring serious skills to it.
You are listening to Light Talk with Steve, Stan, and David, and we are the Lumen Brothers, and Light Talk is sponsored by...
The importance of the motion picture rating system has been debated for years, but perhaps it's time for the theater to take notice and create a stage rating system. Who among us has not one time or another taken pause when being invited to a premiere? Let's face it, new works are a crapshoot. Now when you arrive at the box office, the stage rating system will be in place, and it can help you make an informed decision regarding the purchase of a ticket. For example, you walk in and you see a big letter M. This production has a few too many metaphors. R, the director is keeping it real. X, excessive use of Lee 201.
Guilty.
MR16, footlights are blocking the dancer's feet. PG5, patrons strongly cautioned, 5-act play ahead. And my favorite, PND 30. Playwright is not dead and under 30. This has been a public service announcement from no more 10 out of 12s.
By the way, I would definitely stay away from PG5. I don't think any show should be longer than 48 minutes long. And one act, that's it. One act. No more 2 hours sitting in a seat.
Our good friend, Bill Eckart, took me to a play, and it was god-awful. And it was just terrible. And Bill would sit in the theater, and he would go, "This is really bad. Can we leave?" And I'd say, "No, Bill, we can't leave. We have comp tickets." And then 10 minutes later, "This is horrible. Can we leave?" "No, we can't leave, Bill. We have comp tickets." Bill just got up and left. And I thought, man, that's cold. So then he comes back in maybe 5 minutes later, and he goes, "I bought us 2 tickets. Let's leave."
That's a great story. I had never heard that. Well, Bill Eckart, he knew that every moment of his life was cherished, and he brought so much incredible knowledge and happiness to so many people. So that's a great story, Steve. Thank you for telling that.
Bill would say things like, "Do they know it's bad?"
Chances are they do, but they don't want to admit it. They don't want to acknowledge it. Oh, God.
Speaking of getting on with what matters, and now back to Light Talk.
Hey.
David wants to talk about something.
The Ducks are telling us that it's time for our Let's Talk About segment. And, we came up with this really interesting subject. And I'm just going to put it out there as a question. Does true collaboration in the theater even exist?
It depends on how much money they're paying me.
Are you faking it? Or is it really collaboration? What is it, Steve?
I think, and I'm sending this out to all of our brothers and sisters. When is the last time you did some honest collaboration? I'm not talking about going to Starbucks and having a cup of coffee. I'm talking about honest collaboration, and I think it's rare when it happens. I for one, can count on my hand, on my thumb, the one time a producer invited me to meet with the director and the set designer to talk about the set. And I just inherit these sets. Here's the set we're using. And it's not necessarily a low number theater or a high budget theater. It's just, this is the way we work. The set designer presents the set to everyone. The costume designer gets called in even later than the set designer, and then he or she presents the stuff. I think we are in a foot race in North America. Time and money is a premium. So these kind of long collaborations that happen on long shows. I know there's collaboration at Cirque du Soleil. I know that. I understand they take a year or year and a half and put a show together. I see that process. And I know there's collaboration at one or two theaters and some dance companies. But I think on the whole, it's just not there. It's just not there in the way that we talk about it when we're talking about it in design class at the university. I think that's probably a bit of a myth.
Well, I'm looking back at my career, and I would say for the first 50% of my career, I could say the same thing. You inherit sets. Like I said a few weeks ago, a lot of times I'd inherit ugly sets and try to make them look good. But, it all depends on the director. It really does. And the situation and where you're working. Are you working in the United States at some regional theater or some commercial theater where time is money? Or are you working in Europe where you have a lot more time? It just, again, comes down to the director for me. Just looking back at the last 15, 20 years, I've collaborated a lot from the very beginning. And a lot of it, and something you said, Steve, a few weeks ago, it depends if it's a new project. If it's a brand new project and you're dealing with developing a script and you've got a director who wants to include you, then yes, you will be collaborating. I know I did that with the Stuart Copeland production. And we worked on that show for a couple of years, and the entire team, before there was even a set. So I think it just depends on the project and the director.
Let me just one last tag on this before Stan jumps in. I did a show with the really great costume designer Theone Aldridge, and she was inclusive and invited me into the process, and it was a really great experience. And then, and I say this with all affection, I worked with Ming on a show, and he came back with a set that was fantastic. It had projections in it, and there were some issues there with those projections and the lighting of the show. And I looked at him and I said, man, this is a problem. And he looked at me and he smiled at me and he went, it is, but it's not my problem anymore.
Oh my God.
That's pretty funny.
You got a Ming story and a Bill Eckart story. Thank you, Steve. That was really good.
Well, I don't have a specific story. I was thinking more philosophically as I was listening to you guys. And I'll just say I think I've been really lucky. So maybe I'm the rare one. And I want to say this about collaboration. It's not a thing. It's an attitude, right? And that attitude is embodied in the people in the room. So I've been very fortunate. My colleague at the university is Eastern European, and you all know Mihai, and when we've worked together, there's a real thirst for exchange. There's a real sense of collaboration. So that's been lucky for me. And in the early years, like you guys, it was all about there's no time, there's not enough money, everybody's cranking things out. Here's what you got, work with it. Sure, true. That's very common. But then I have to say I'm working now more with architects and owners who are also creatives, and the good ones, they bring that attitude to it because they understand that you're going to make their project better, and they understand if they get you involved earlier, the better. So I think it also depends upon the maturity of the group. I think mature designers know that when you're open and quote collaborative, all boats rise. But sometimes as Steve says, sometimes the circumstances in the United States do not really create the environment for that. And we tell our students what we try to give them at school is some kind of idealized, romanticized version of what collaboration can be. And we also warn them, you're never going to really, or it's going to be rare that you have this chance once you're out of school. So here's a benchmark, right? Let's make the best possible collaboration you could experience here at school. So when you leave, you know maybe how good it can be, but understand it might not be. And then to put it into sort of more physical terms, I usually say, if you get 1 in 10 where there's real collaboration, you are lucky.
You know, I must say that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think we need to change it in the schools. I think the students need to change it. They need to change the world. And it's not only the designers, it's the directors as well. And this is why I think we should continue to talk about this in school and have processes set up so directors meet with all the designers from the very beginning.
Yeah, we do that.
I know you do that. And you said that a few weeks ago. But what I'm saying is that we can't tell them and be cynical that if 1 in 10, it's going to happen. You make that change. You know, I can just tell, and this is what I tell my students all the time. I can only teach the students what I know, what I'm experiencing right now. I said, but you have the opportunity to create your own theater, to create your own processes, and create your own energy. And go for it. It's their world now.
I agree with you, David, but I think there's one piece. The students don't really know or haven't experienced what you and the three of us might consider a good, healthy collaboration. So they need a model. They need to see it happen so then they can sort of bring it into the world and bring it into fruition. So I agree with you, but they don't really know what good collaboration is because they've never seen it.
Okay, Max in Washington writes, I heard some folks talking about adding some backpacks into the lighting rig. What are they talking about? Well, as I've always understood what a backpack is, and I could be wrong about this, it's a standalone dimmer. So let's say I've got a rig of a bunch of LED fixtures in the air. And, well, actually right now, I've got a rig with a bunch of LED fixtures in the air, and the conductor has asked for a warm tungsten light on him. And he knows exactly what it is, and there's no, this is what it kind of looks like. That's exactly what he wants. So who am I to argue with him? So I took my rig, 100% LED, except for one tungsten fixture, and I threw a backpack on it. And so for that performance, there is that one light shining down on him. So that's what I understand a backpack to be.
You know, I never heard the term before, but I sure know what that is now that you've described it. And you know, we did a study for a big roadhouse about moving to LED, and we recommended that. But one of the things they told us is that we have a lot of road companies that are going to come in who are not going to be ready for that. So how will you handle when they need a certain amount of lights to be incandescent? And that's exactly how we solved the problem. But I didn't use the term backpack, so thank you for adding that term to my lexicon.
Yeah, I thought it was a regular backpack. Which, by the way, if you're traveling in the air now, sometimes that's all you can bring on the plane now. It's a backpack. It's crazy.
Trains.
And automobiles. Well, that Hammond organ solo in the background tells us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. All right, so check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on our Facebook group page and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
And we got plenty of those, but just in case you choose to litigate, our solid-state law firm of Chip Onboard, Luz Driver, and Dimmeray will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to tune in next week when we chat with the extremely good-looking, handsome, and fetching Bobby Hale of High End Systems.
My lava light and a new sponsor coming next week. Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Goodbye from Light Talk.
Hallelujah. Sayonara. Bye-bye.
Sayonara, baby.